a lot of aspects tie into your shadow work. And it's important to understand why you're doing it and the repercussions of doing it. You're not necessarily just going to get rid of all fear and everything else like that. That's something entirely, and it's kind of important to have that. But it will not affect you in the way that it does in the past. And it starts by literally clearing out your shadow. So you got a conscious mind, right? And it's this, you put your hands out in front of you and put them out to the side. You see the edge of your conscious awareness, and that's your conscious mind. That's everything you're aware of and see. There's also the unconscious, which are things you're not seeing, but you can also be aware of. And the non-conscious, which is, you know, you're not ever going to, you might not ever be aware of these things. So it's important to be able to separate them three parts of the mind out, at least. I know there's more parts of the mind. Listen, we got to start somewhere. You know, you don't start NASCAR driving by going straight to NASCAR. You got to learn to drive first. So you basically want to clear out your shadow. And basically what I mean by clear out your shadow, you got to, because it's its own little world in there. Your mind is its own world. Your mind is its own little universe. It's got its own physics in there. It's got its own everything. So, and it's all functioning by the information that you keep in there. Now, granted, you can't change some experiences, but you can change the way you interpret each experience. And that is what shadow work really is. It's reinterpreting and evaluating things that you are keeping in the dark, either from others or from yourself. You have to shed light on it so you can fully acknowledge it, so it can go, run its course. Everything does have to run its course. And it's always the way you're looking at things. It's never really the thing, you know. But you don't want to use something bad as an excuse to do more bad, because then you're just going to bring on more bad, and that's pretty bad. To each his own. It starts by just going in there and really, it doesn't happen all at once. You sit down and you make an assessment, maybe even write it out. Things that you don't like, about yourself, or something that's bothering you about yourself. Why do you do these things? And why do you do these things? Don't tell me why this person made you do it, this person made you do it. Why did you do it? Even if it's a case where somebody made me do it. Why were you in the situation? Why, you got to find, you got to trace the cause and effect back all the way to where you're the causer, especially if you want to get to that inner child. And throw this little disclaimer in there. Don't do this if you want to be integrated. Don't do this if you want clarity on why things happen. Don't do this if you want to be responsible for everything that happens in your life. Don't do this if you want to feel like a god or a goddess. Don't do this if you just want to find out like what you truly are and what your purpose is. Like, if you don't want any of them things, don't do this, because hey, you've been warned. And this is something new I'm doing for my own personal journey. So I need all the feedback I can get. So go ahead and just like and subscribe, and I'm gonna keep making some more videos for you guys. Okay, so we're gonna start with listing things out. Like, that's what helps me when I first started doing shadow work. Uh, but you want to write out a list of things that bother you about yourself, and you also want to list out things that are what you like about yourself. It helps when you can balance things out, the good with the bad. If there's all bad things, it's going to overwhelm you. And you put these into a list, and Which one of these can you change today? Which one of these can you get to the root of now? Like in the time you have, just because that's the goal, is you want to be like, why am I doing this? Well, because this happened, right? Why am I sitting in this chair? Because I wanted to make a video. Why did I want to make a video? Because I got an idea of a video. Why did I get an idea for the video? Because I seen somebody talking about they needed more. And then you trace the cause and effect. This is just an example. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel, but that's just an example. You want to cause and effects. The why. Be the little curious kid again that always asks why. Okay, so you've done the cause and effect thing, and you've traced a problem back to its root of why you did something. Now it's key to be able to unpluck it. You can't change. Remember, you can't change what happened. You can only change the way you perceived it. So this is where you're going to have to be, the big brother, the big sister, to whatever part of yourself that you need to talk to. Say if it was something that happened in your childhood, you've got to be able to trace it back to that, and then talk to that child version of you and let him or her know that it's going to be fine. Let him know it's okay. Let him know, all these other things, like, it's not going to, just, the advice that you needed to hear when you was there at the time. The protection you needed to feel when you was there at the time. Remember, you can't change what happened. You can only change the way you perceive what happens. After that, you'll just sit there and let the emotions run its course, right? And during this time, you want to make sure you're looking after yourself, your younger self, because what you're doing essentially is you're going inside of your mind and talking to another version of you. Now, we can sit there and go into quantum mechanics, timelines, all that another day, another time. That's another story for another day. I'm just showing you right now how to start your shadow work in clearing out your subconscious, because it's amazing things that can happen when you do that. Yeah. Well, this is something you're going to do more than once. You're going to do this several times, maybe even make a habit of it. Really want to get to them roots. And when you get to them roots, you got to pull them out. And you also got to make sure that there's no more seeds of this nature in there. You want to get to the root first, and then you want to make sure no more roots can grow there. Important to note, it's not a one-time thing. It's a process. You'll continually do it over again. But as the emotions start to feel their way out, you will have a void that needs to be filled again. So it's important that you take up maybe a sport or a hobby or something to deal with that trauma not being there. You'll actually feel that weight lifted off of you, and you might not be used to it. So you want to make sure that you take up something before something takes up you, if that makes sense. And you'll get a sense like there's a little child following you around. You might, especially if it was some really deep, now if it wasn't a lot of childhood trauma that you're dealing with, maybe not. But if it's childhood trauma you were dealing with, you may have like the emotions of a child kind of like embody themselves a little bit. And it'll feel like they're following you around a little bit. And those are really just the feelings that you would have had if somebody was there to comfort you the way you comforted yourself when you was a kid. And that's them emotions coming back to you. It can get a little, that's why I said it can get a little, some crazy things can happen, but it's not nothing bad. That is actually something that a lot of people want and need to do is get in touch with their inner child so they can resolve a lot of their issues, and you'll talk to it in your mind like you would your younger self. Remember, it's very important that when you do these cause and effect things, that you are not lying to yourself about anything. That's one thing to lie to other people. That is something entirely different to lie to yourself. That is because that is dangerous territory, because it's hard to find your way out the dark. And that's essentially what you want to do, is find your way out the dark. And really start to bring light to your inner self. And this was just the introduction to shadow work. There's obviously a lot more you can do, but this is just, if you want to get your feet wet, this is the best way to do it. And it's important because the shadow really constructs our reality, right? It's really what the matrix is. It's your mind. And it's the set of fears that's stopping you from doing what you want to do, from all the things you've been told not to do. I think in psychology they call them stigmas. Uh, think of things people don't do, but they won't talk about, they won't do either. Kanye West has said it, where he said you get yelled at for jumping on a table when you're 2 years old, and now when you're an adult, you refuse to step on a table. Your mind is constructed of these tables, of these things you can't do, that's limiting you from being your best version of yourself. And you really want to get rid of some of those.